doing this much yet, but you should be watching the Beyond Room 313 channel. It's getting really good now at the interview show Symposium myself and Jason does. And we begin a new show which should go out on Tuesday called The Weak and Strange with Timothy Wild, and myself and Jason will also be on that, where we discuss the strange 40 and an off sort of oddball stories for the week. Again, like everything else on BR313, there's no politics or anything like that. It's an escapism from that world. Unlike these vlogs, which occasionally meander into that realm. Uh, I think I left my walking. I didn't. Here we go. I bought a hiking stick with a deer antler. A chap called Anthony from Scotland made it, and I just use it really for hiking. My foot is fine from the fall now, but it's also handy in a pub fight. You walk in with that pointed out like that, and you get left alone. But what was I gonna say? So I went to get the. I saw there was the deluxe version of Guns N' Roses. They called it was a re-release. The deluxe and Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction, and that's the only good album they ever made. They did all of their albums are rubbish, but I do like Appetite for Destruction. It's from a specific era that it has a lot of happy memories for me at that period of that time. I was living in New York and Guns N' Roses, the Ritz, and all that stuff. So I went to look at it, and on the deluxe version, they left off. It was a song from the second album, which was supposed to be on it, "One in a Million." Now, "One in a Million" was banned. It's basically been shelved from the Guns N' Roses catalog because the N word is used in it. And the lyric goes, "Police and N's get out of my way," and of course you're not allowed to say that anymore, even though the lyrics of the song are about a young guy, like a white trash, Axl Rose's white trash, arriving in LA for the first time, and that's how his mind would have been. That's how his reaction. So it was an honest reaction to the kind of world he came from, and so it's art. It's not. He wasn't being hateful or anything, and isn't Slash half black anyway? The guitar player from the band. It was an artistic statement of a time. It wasn't meant to be hateful or anything like that. How a young kind of white trash, and that's like from wherever he came from, arrives in LA, and then you have Rock and Roll N or by Patti Smith from her album Easter, and that's left alone because she's a feminist. And I noticed, but the context of the song is the same as Axl Rose in Guns N' Roses "One in a Million." It's not about being hateful or anything or being racist. She's using it the same way John Lennon, and I've even heard Sinead O'Connor actually and not only use the N word but type it out fully on her, saying that woman is the of the world on her Twitter page while she's like, demanding that people go to be arrested and sent to the prison for, passing very moderate comments in videos. These people are insane. We all know they're dangerous, but they're completely insane. But Guns N' Roses made one good album, Appetite for Destruction, and I don't even like that anymore. Not because and that's not their fault. It's probably the record company or the woke thing. Because One in a Million was left out, which is like of the deluxe version on the re-release. And so I didn't want the deluxe version. Then I didn't want it, even though it was Appetite for Destruction was there and complete in its entirety. I was just like, I just don't want this anymore because One in a Million should have been on the deluxe version. Anyway, so I didn't buy it in the end. So they're ruining everything, and even the video for One in a Million is not even on YouTube. There's a live version from some club somewhere, and but like an acoustic version, but the original the music video version is gone, and it's just nauseating, and it's just so many. They're rewriting history, and it's got to the point now where that becomes coupled to everything else. So, for instance, like I've met people, and they do exist, that claim that if you're skeptical about the the whole Rona mainstream narrative, you're a Nazi fascist. In fact, I was called that the other night. Called like punch Nazis, mask up, wear the effing mask on Twitter. Called me a Nazi occultist, and then waffled on stuff that made no sense. It was nonsensical waffle, and followed by emojicons laughing, and then gifts by fellow wokies and soy boys that are supposed to be, yeah, you nailed him. I'm like, what are you? What am I? What are you? What are you? You know, look, this means nothing. These people, the cancel culture thing is about people who have nothing to offer themselves, or if they're involved in things, they're mediocre. They're mediocre, and they know they'll never leave a lasting legacy in anything they do. So they level the playing field by canceling culture. That's their agenda. I can see my friend Francis in the rearview mirror looking for me, but so I might be interrupted. But anyway, I find him a pretty girl to talk to. I usually distract him, but an old-fashioned guy, and so they want to destroy all culture, and so instead of them rising to greatness, they tear everything down to mediocrity in the hope that they will be recognized. But of course, they die alone, unforgotten almost immediately. These types, and for all their grandstanding on Twitter and social media and everything else, they're just obliterated as flotsam into the abyss and never heard from ever again. So all their efforts, all their their fighting and all their social justice stuff is always in vain. It's always going to be in vain, because they will achieve nothing, absolutely nothing. But it's quite amazing how it's got to the situation now, as I said, coupled with the Rona stuff, right? That there are now people, because of needlecraft, are dying in extreme agony, their lives ruined, but they're not going to the doctors to tell them about it, because if they tell the doctor that they got sick from their needlecraft, they'll think, people will think that they're Nazis. That's where we have arrived. People who have been needlecrafted and damaged as a result are dying alone like religious flagellants for their church, and suffering alone because they're afraid to tell anyone about that they had negative reactions, or go to their doctor for fear that they'll be called a far-right conspiracy theorist. This is the level they have taken humanity to now. This is the level. They're now flagellating themselves. And that's what, the topic, like the extreme Catholics, like the Matt Talbot thing, flagellating yourself for Jesus. Or, that's, the martyrs, the stigmatas, not the stigmatas, the flagellants. They still exist. You see them in places like southern Italy. You'll see the fellow going to the church at certain times and whipping himself. And, well, this is the same thing, but not for Jeebus, but for their sacred needlecraft and their beloved politicians. It's just mad, isn't it? When you think about it. But they've managed to couple. It's amazing how they've created a little package, and inside that package is climate change, like pro-climate change, needlecraft, official stance on the Rona, and fighting white nationalism. It's all a little tidy little package. The whole thing all sits together, and everything is scientifically. You cannot go against science, but they go against science constantly, and internally they do nothing but, and even they contradict themselves, and they don't even know what science is. They just say they do, but they don't even know what it is, or they don't know anything about science. It's just like they'll copy paste an article from somewhere and try to make themselves. It's a kind of an intellectual virtual signaling. That's what that is. Is it sustainable? Of course, it's not sustainable. It will collapse. For some reason, I feel that this time next year we will have tremendous clarity, one way or the other. we'll find out in a year from now if it was something like an asteroid or something all along, or if there really was. There's no doubt about it. If in any other world and any other time, the effects that of the needlecraft it's having, even of the ones who survived, it would have been pulled. It would have been pulled. But now they're actually sacrificing themselves. Remember my song, "Sanctify me with your needlecraft, sanctify me. Put the love of COVID Christ into my arm." That's literally what they want now. They want the suffering of the COVID redeemer from needlecraft in order to prove their worth. It's almost like it's weird. It's just this weird fucking inversion. Looks like Newsreel Swan. Hello, Newsreel Swan here. And now I've got like a totem, an avatar of Newsreel Swan. Yes, sir, Newsreel Swan here. Talking like this, don't you know? Talking like FDR. Don't you know? But yeah, so it's almost like this is what's good. This is good news. The wokies are sacrificing themselves to needlecraft in order to prove that they're pious beings of virtue, right? It's almost like that's their badge of honor. But because needlecraft is a killing thing, is a killing word, they're all doomed to die or get things, that'll give them kind of like neurological functions that will deteriorate them. So they're committing suicide. So think of them as like kamikaze fight bombers. Like kamikaze means divine wind. And that's divine wind sounds like, it not sound like something like St. Francis of Assisi's farts, or the Pope's farts, or divine wind. But that's what kamikaze means, divine wind. And this is getting very Freudian here. I'm doing this with the stick. But look at me. Fucking hell. I don't be doing that in public, but maybe I should. But but yeah, it's like kamikaze. It's like a kamikaze thing. It's like give me needlecraft so I can prove I'm virtuous and I'm fighting Nazis, and then they're gone. So it's just like the kamikaze when they were going screaming bonsai as they were plowing into the American ship, or screaming for the emperor. Long live the emperor. The drive is the same fanatical theocratic political drive. It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same drive that's involved in both processes. A Japanese Zero plowing into a US warship in the Battle of Leyte Gulf, or some woke motherfucker, who, a pronoun type, walking into getting the needlecraft, and they're both dead, they're both doomed, and the drive is the same fanatical blind drive behind both. So, my attitude is, well, good, we'll be rid of them sooner. And that's why I think, this upsets me too, because I think I'd like all the nice people I know that have availed of needlecraft, have been forced into their jobs. I don't want anything to happen to them. And I know people have left comments here saying, fuck them, they're stupid and stuff like that. But they're stupid and stuff like that. No, that's not nice. Some are forced into it by their jobs and stuff like that. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And if they're nice people, I don't want anything bad to happen to them. So I feel like rotten about the whole thing. I feel kind of, what's the word? I feel kind of rotten saying, well, fuck them at those wokies who've got needlecraft and they're suffering Because then I'll start thinking of people I know who are really good people who got it. I don't want anything to happen to them. And I don't even like talking about it here because in case they see the video, they think I might I'm trying to hurt their feelings, and I'm not. I mean, I hope they're okay. But we could, all the ferrets died, in the tests, and we are heading for the season coming in November, December, January, and I don't know. I just, like I said, we'll have clarity probably this time next year, and I hope it's clarity for the good of people, I mean, a nut would make me more happier than, what would make me really happy now, that the mainstream story about all this was true, that the needlecraft worked, and everyone got better again. I would love that to be true. But just like I know, that there's another story here. Perhaps many stories. Perhaps lots of stories. And that's just needlecraft and Rona. It's just a cover story for him. So, you hear things about great resets and new normals, and you have other theories about there's an asteroid coming in, or the pole flip is happening, or a new ice age is happening, and this is a way of, as George Bernard Shaw said, to humanely murder people. Greg Moffat had a good video about people being kept at home because an asteroid or something is coming, like in the movie Melancholia, or a CME, or a pole flip. I mean, all these things are really on the table. As much as the ping pong escape from Wuhan, as much as that, at this point anyway. And I look at people all around me, and they seem like deer caught in the headlights. They really, really do. They seem like, and I've also, I don't know, has anyone noticed this, that they become more animalistic? Like, I was standing on a bus stop the other day waiting for a bus, and there was two outfitters in the front of a car, and they had gotten some fast food from the fast food place next to the bus stop. And these were guys probably in their 50s, maybe older. And one of them got a burger, and the other one got a chicken curry. And I'm not kidding you, they were eating like this. Like fucking animals. And the guy would pick up the chicken curry. He'd pick up the chicken curry. He put the fork into the container of chicken curry, and it opened up like this. And I was looking at the two fuckers. And you'd never see people eat like that in public, They were fucking... It's just, they were eating like animals. I was like... Because of the lack of contact and interaction with people since the Rona began, and the lockdowns and everything, huge numbers of the NPCs have forgotten that you have things like table manners. And I bet when restaurants or indoor dining opens again, I don't know it's open in your countries, but in ours it doesn't open next week or something, 2 weeks. People will be noticing eating like, because they have been away from the decorum and social protocol, that they'll be belching and everything in the restaurant, after they've eaten, because they've spent the last year at home and they haven't been programmed. Many of them, I don't think, I even know how to use that for knives and forks properly. They'll be behaving like animals, and like that, because they have forgotten Just like they don't remember just December 2019. They have forgotten. This is what the NPC is like. It has a very limited memory bank. And the NPC, the meat, their memory bank kind of gets wiped in no time. And unless they have conditional Pavlovian repetitiveness, such as eating out regularly and figuring out that like that's not how you eat in public. Until they've remembered that again, or it's been pointed out to them again, they'll probably enter the restaurants going like that, like that. I think that's gonna, because that's what I saw in the car, that those two fuckers looking at me. They look at the burger like that. Like it's fucking cavemen. And yeah, the two NPCs who had forgotten what eating in public is like, because they have not had that concurrent Pavlovian reminders of that you don't eat like that in public. So you're going to get a lot of that. You're going to get all the NPCs. That's why, like, first of all, I'm not going to fucking go to a restaurant that had any kind of track and tracing, And unless I'm on, well, if it's something quick or something, and I'll always give a stupid name, like Professor Teddy Bearstein or something like that, Edward Bearstein. Or, I had loads of them. Mostly I'd give them women's names. But, WB yeast infection, that was another one. But, I'm not for the first couple of weeks I'm staying well out of restaurants until the meat, the normies have relearned that you don't. Yeah, when they've relearned that that's not how you eat. When they've relearned that, then I'll go back in. But not before. I don't want that. I don't want to be around them. I don't want to be looking at them. Because that's what the cunts will be like. And how you can still respect the human race after all this is beyond me. You can still, and you hear people talk about how, like, oh, most people in the world are good. Only a few people are bad. I think most people in the world are robots. And they can be programmed either good or either bad. And if they're not programmed accordingly, they revert to a kind of a subspecies thing, where they eat like that and they belch and they stare at you. This is a new thing I've noticed now. The fucking in Ireland, people stare at you. They used like the Scandinavians all stare at you. Here's a fucking Scandinavian. Now I see the Irish doing it because of the masks. So in such a short time, they successfully reprogrammed people. But they've also, the meat will also have forgotten the programs they had running inside them. I mean, it's just amazing. I keep saying, what an education. What an education. And so, like, they had some stupid concert here recently where they had like a test audience of like a couple of yuppies all standing in boxes watching some shithead crap singer singing. And then they go home saying, aren't we brave? Didn't we do well? Didn't we do amazing because we socially distanced at a concert in our little pens? Darling. And then you get those same people say, while you were doing that tonight in the Ivy Gardens in Dublin, standing socially distanced from some fucker on the stage singing, here is what's happening at the Euro finals. And you show them the Euro soccer finals, and there's a stadium with 50,000 Danish people in it, packed, and almost no one wearing masks. And then you say, look, there's obviously that we can be like that here in Ireland. And they go, oh no, we have to wait for the government to tell us what to do. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. The lack of an internal monologue. The pure NPC, they have to have their status, the latest order.